Hi. When Jesus came into Peter's home, he saw his mother-in-law lying sick in bed with a fever. Matthew 8. He touched her hand, and the fever left her, and she got up and waited on him. You know, this part is symbolic. You know, you had Jesus turning water into wine. His first miracle. This appears to be his second. I've never seen anything else besides this. And you got to get that impression that maybe it wasn't the second, but it was what really got him renown. When Jesus came into Peter's home, he saw his mother-in-law sick in bed with a fever. So, Peter was married. Sick in bed with a fever. He touched her hand, and the fever left her, and she got up and waited on him. She didn't die. She wasn't, he doesn't really say much more than she had a fever. And okay, when I'm going to read this next part, but when people, you think that it's too little to mess with. Well, whatever it may be, I don't think it's too little to mess with. I think it's important. And so you have Jesus going into the land of hypocrites, also called Israel and Jerusalem, just as you have people going into churches today, and they oppose them as well. Jesus got people to listen to him, and he was known as a rabbi, and rightly so, and told them that no one else should be called rabbi. When they found out, this is definitely what's happening here. When they found out that Jesus had healed Peter's mother, well, Peter was a big man, and he said as much, which is a problem, pride and everything. But Peter was a big man, and his mother-in-law was cured. He's not a second miracle, because I suppose that would be Jesus cleansing cleansing the leper, healing the leper, and all that stuff. So there's a leper, and then there was the servant, and then there was Peter's mother-in-law. There was water into wine, which pretty much was kept down the down low, which is fine, That's what I like to do, is keep things on the down low until Bible says he was, he stayed in the deserts until he was ready to be revealed to Israel. And he really didn't have much to claim at first. So he healed her, and people said, okay, water into wine, well, that may have just been wine in the first place, right? And, we don't know. I'm not saying I don't know or you don't know, but they sit there and they say, well, was that was water? And they even said that the master of the banquet said, oh, this is great wine. He didn't know. So Jesus was not about, it also said, if you should go down, one of his brothers said, you should go down to the feast. We want everybody to know who you are. And the Bible says Jesus' own brothers didn't believe in him. So he does the healings, the servant, the water and the wine, which some people know about, and it wasn't a big thing. Cleansing the leper, chapter 8, first miracle mentioned in Matthew. I'm pretty sure about that one. And the centurion, I've heard people say this before, the Roman centurions, from my understanding, there's never a bad word spoken about them. They're always, apparently because of their training and they're disciplined. They're always amazing people. Well, it's the ones that are mentioned in the Bible. So the servant is healing the servant, and then Peter's mother-in-law. Okay, the fever left her, and she got up and waited on him. And then people say, "Oh, this guy can do something for us." And Jesus, of course, isn't here now in bodily form. And there are many among us who would say Jesus isn't here at all. And you get the rigmarole when you turn on the radio, and people don't believe the professors. People don't believe the testifiers or the claimants. They just say, "Look, I've listened to this before, and I'm just not interested." Okay, no Hare Krishnas, no Mormons, no Baptists, no whatever. You know, I've heard it all before. I've been through religion before. There are no honest religious people, or at least they don't have anything to say. It's not possible, is the assumption. So then they said, "Oh, he can do something for us." And the truth of the matter is, I believe that's exactly the way you look at Jesus, as someone who can do something for you. And especially, I mean, you can do something for him, but that's not the way you start looking at it. You come to him if you want to be healed. But then you first must be convinced. It must be reasonable to do that. But, you know, you got what the so-called atheists. There's no such mention of atheists in the Bible. And don't give me the quote, I know it. Okay? And there are no mention of atheists in the Bible. There are mention of people that don't believe in God, but there are no mention of atheists in the Bible. But, you know, the whole thing about, well, what, prove this, prove that, prove the other. And, you know, people are hypocrites. People don't know the truth because they don't want to know the truth. If you remember, for some of you truthers people, you know, I was unconvinced until I really looked into it. And watching it over and over and over again outside of its context, the original context of the trade centers coming down, I didn't believe it. Of course, the Pentagon tape from that day in 2001 was withheld by the government. I was unconvinced. I was just unconvinced. And then I looked at it, and I looked at it, and it's the same thing with Jesus. You know, Christianity at its base is really not that complicated. It's very detailed, and you can get the complexity, you can get into it deeply, and there's a lot of stuff in there. Believe me. Or don't believe me, whatever you want to do. But I saw it again and again and again and again and again and again, and I stopped listening to what the people that didn't want to hear it were telling me, and I said, I want to know the truth. And that's how it happens. But when it comes to morality and God and all that stuff, which is basically all it's down to, love, which is spoken out, detailed out in morality, and God, you know, being, you know, as the Bible says, love. God being good, God being love, God being loving. When you talk about God, you're really talking about love. And that, of course, is unacceptable to many people. That you just say, oh, love, that's not, you know, that's not good enough. Well, knowing God is something different. It's what makes me crazy. So, they finally realized, hey, this guy can heal us. When the disciples were gathered together, they fit in one room after Jesus was dead. They did not want to follow his religious teaching. They wanted to get healed. And I think that's a lot of what happens. And the synonymousness, the connection between being physically healed and your life is a circle, you know. It is one thing. It's making your life better. You know, physical healing is just the weaker, or worse, if I can say that, the less important part. When evening came, they brought to him many who were demon-possessed, and he cast out the spirits with the word. and healed all who were ill, to fulfill what was spoken through Isaiah the prophet. He himself took our infirmities and carried away our diseases.